So Zimi Nick, man, it's a pleasure to finally link up with you and talk about your work. First of all, congratulations on the recent success that you've been having. But first, before we get into the production side of things, I want to sort of take it back really to where it all started for you in the music industry.
Well, Zimi itself started like in 2014 as just at first it was I used to sell tickets for parties, like as an individual. Um, so like they would give me tickets and I would go and sell them um, to people, and then I'd get like a commission for every ticket I sell. So I did that and I started getting into that, and I wanted to make it something. So I started Zimi Tickets. So did that. Fast forward now, you're in the space, you're selling tickets, you're meeting promoters, you're meeting people at parties. Did that, and then it evolved and evolved, and then we kept our first party called Zimi Road. And when we did that, we kind of killed down on the ticketing and the other stuff and focused in on parties. So we kept Zimi Road, and then the following year we kept Zimi River. And that's a massive party today, like massive. And then came Zimi Brunch. And then while all of that was developing, we started to dabble in the music.
When you were selling tickets, like what sort of promoters were you selling tickets for? Like what sort of parties?
It was more bigger ticketed events. So like, and I would say, I don't really like to use the word, but it was more like uptown events. That's how it started, because that's, like that's the people I knew at the time. And then as it grew, I started selling for all kind of events. I actually sold for one of the first sands, like the party sands, like one of the initial sands. Like at that time, their ticket was like $1,000, and I was selling tickets for them. So it went from at first a few selective, more high price, like all-inclusive parties to everybody.
So how did it work? Like they would just give you a load of tickets to sell, or you would buy them from them and then sell them yourself?
They would give me tickets. And then that's how I kind of started. That's how the what do I call it? Like the crew started. So like I had other guys. So like I'm Zimi Nick. There's, you have Zimi Glenn, and there's Zimi, there's Zimis. And so they were all selling tickets as well. So had different people who had different following groups and stuff. So basically, through that, a lot of people knew the name Zimi. So when the party time came, it was like an easy transition. But yeah, they just gave me physical tickets. I had people who sold for me, and then I also had a few stores that worked with me, like gas stations and stuff, and they sold the tickets as well.
So what kind of marketing techniques, what kind of things would you do to sell your tickets? Because you must have been good at it.
At the time, honestly, it was all social media. So like when I started Zimi Tickets, like a week after, I changed my name to like Zimi Nick. And like that's where it kind of just all started. Like printed shirts. Everywhere I went, I wore a Zimi Ticket shirt. Like that was my uniform. Like people would make fun of me. They're like, you don't have any other clothes? And I'm like, bro, just cool now, you see me? So, but it worked out. So that was it. And then social media, like we worked Instagram really hard. Like in the initial stages of Instagram, we didn't have content to post daily. So we would find content that would just go viral, like funny comedy videos or like anything that would make people come to your page because someone shares it. Or so like there was a lot of that in the initial stages. There was getting people to post. We did like we gave away like hundreds of items of merch. Like that's what I also invested in heavily. And to this day, like people still have the old merch and they treasure it because it's like, they'll never come back. And it's like they have that old Zimi Ticket shirt. So those were the main. And honestly, just like anything, aligning yourself with the right people. Like at the end of the day, we're in a business. Like as much as entertainment is like fun, and there's a lot of drinking and smoking and partying around the business itself, at the end of the day, like it's a business. So just like any other business, you want to have the right connections, it's like in a food business, you want to have the right distributors. Like you have to align yourself with who can put you on that level and bring benefit to them. Like find things that they need help with or could use, and like set the link so it doesn't look like a one-way like relationship.
So how did you build your team then? What was the process of building the Zimi team?
honestly, the first guy, his name is Glenn. He started actually played table tennis with him. So like that's like I used to play table tennis for Jamaica. So when I was a kid, yeah, like travel the world and shit. You see me? So, but I met it with him and we were just close at the time, and he was like he went to a whole different like he went to like a more he went to school somewhere else in Jamaica, like a different school. He had a lot of followings that I didn't have, and I was like, yo, you want help me with this project? And he was in, like he was always we always used to talk about like business ideas. So like he was the first guy. Then he brought on like his cousin, who was his cousin went to UTech. So like that was like, all right, yo, now we have a plug in the school, and he was going to no, his cousin went to UE and he went to UTech. So we had like the two. That was actually how we based it. We wanted someone at UE and we wanted somebody at UTech, because that was the majority of the party crowd. Then it grew. It's only about like 3 or 4 more people now. So you have Frank, which he came down later, which he's more focuses on the music side with me. Me and him are more on the music side. And you have Johnny and Jason, and they're on the more on the party side. So there's actually like 2 sides to it. But they, because of what they know from parties, they help me to apply that to promoting the music, like through
Nice.
the same like means and tools.
So talk us through that first party that you did by yourself then, because obviously it's quite a big step going from selling tickets for someone else to then organizing the whole thing.
Actually, the first party I actually did was Zimi Road, and that was actually at the time Silent Addy did it with me. Like me and Silent Addy did that together. So that was in 2015. It was a street dance at Susie's, and that's when like Mojito Mondays and those stuff were going on. So it was a familiar environment. So we kept it there, and it was a street dance, and it was like all uptown people. Like it was all uptown people, and it was like a weird scenario, because it's like you got the who's of the streets and stuff, like, you know, DJs, artists, whatever, and then you had like a bunch of like uptown people and, you know, other people. So it was a mixed crowd, very mixed crowd, especially for a street dance. And that's what I've kind of built the brand on, like that diverse crowd. So fast forward now, we kept the first River, and the same thing happened again. River was in a far place though, like you had to drive, like it was in Bogwalk. So the first one only got 300 people, but it was like the party of the 300 people there had the best time they've ever had. And some videos went viral, you know, like Sterling was there. The after movie for it was crazy. Like Prince Pine at the time was like, he was just bubbling up. So like everything was just, you know, and then we had the second stage and it just went to like 800 people. And from there, yeah, it's madness now, like crazy.
And what would you say is the biggest factor to your success with the Zimi parties? Because it's such a competitive market in Jamaica, you know, to have that following is something that's good.
It is a very competitive space, and there's not that many barriers to entry to keep a party. So, you know, everybody wants to do it, and none is wrong. But definitely to survive, you have to come with something different. You have to come with something different. So like, funny enough, I didn't continue the Zimi Road brand, because I found that every week there's a street dance, every night there's a street dance. So like, how do you separate yourself as a street dance when you can go to a street dance for free? Like, you know, so when we kept the River was different. Like nobody had ever done a River party the way we did it. Like, and then the venue that we had was also like had never been used before, so it was different. Like it was like, yo, this is a different vibe. And then also supply and demand, only can give it to them a certain amount of times a year, 2 times a year, that's it. Like you don't have to just maintain the hype. Like if you get to go every month or every 2 months, like, oh, I can miss this one, there'll be another one. And then with COVID now, it's gonna be 1 year and they haven't been. So it will definitely have that. So there's that. Same thing with brunch, you know, like breakfast parties were a thing in Jamaica, but no one was really doing brunches. So it came with the whole brunch, and then because of the Zimi sect, it just like brunch. So the party ends up being River and brunch, which are like you're calling it what it is. Like, it's not a name, it's a river and it's a brunch, but it's Zimi Search. So just all of those things, like with time and like when we came up with Zimi Road, it was just a group on Facebook to tell people where to go, like on a weekends, and that I had tickets for the parties. That's all it was. And then like now it's like, say, one of the biggest party brands.
So how important is the DJs that you choose for your party? I mean, because some events, they rely on the names of the DJs, where some events seem to rely on their brand as a party to bring people.
All right, my eyes, there's you said DJs, right?
Yeah, like selectors, yeah.
Selectors, honestly, different selectors obviously cater to different markets. So what I have at brunch is different than what I have at river. Like, the lineups are different. There is some crossover, you know. Chromatic is always on my parties, and that's just because like that's like a day one. Like, when I was getting into the business, like, they were linking, and you know, the links were made, so they're always on my parties, and they're one of the best sounds, if not the best sound in the island. So, and then I rotate, like, you know, you have some younger guys that are coming up, like Travis, for example, on Chromatic. Like, last time he played, like, Travis was booked. The time before, Creep was booked. And then you had Brush was on one of them, and JR was on another one of them. And then I have a DJ named Lengi, who I work with and like closely. He's actually like, he's a part of the team. So, and then to me, I like the balance. So I look at a DJ and say, all right, this DJ is going to play the time he's given. Like, if I put him on to start it till the mid-time party, he's going to make sure those people have fun. And
he's not going to be playing he's not going to be playing Yang or anything like that.
No, he's not going to try look forward. Like, so I pay attention to those stuff, and I time out my DJs like that. Like, yo, actually the most important DJ to me is the man who's going to start the party, and 100%. Bring it right up to whoever he's handing it over to, just to shell it. That shelling part, anybody can shell it. You know?
Exactly.
So that's how I look at it. So, and then, you know, brunch is more of a premium, like less of a, like, river is turn up, like party. So it's a more aggressive, like fun rave party, compared to brunch is a more dress up, premium, you know, champagne. So like, I'll put like a Franco on there for like a soca artist, you know, a DJ Nico, like those kind, which when I pick them, they all have to make sure that they're not going to go clash, like they're going to mesh perfectly. Mm-hmm. So it's important. At first it was a pulling factor. Now, like, we don't even like really advertise the DJs hard. Like, they'll go on the main flyer, but it's not like we're trying to shove the DJ, like, you need to come because this. It's just, and that takes time. Like, that's been 4 years, 5 years of keeping the same party, consistency. So after a while, people don't really care who is DJing. They just know they're going to come and hear good music and good food. And so, which is time. But definitely DJs do play a part in Jamaica, because artists, we don't really, especially parties don't really have artists like that. You know, it's more stage show. Like, unless it's a street dance, you get artists.
Yeah. So for someone who is just getting into the events business in Jamaica, what would you say to them? Like, what bit of advice would you give them about building a successful event brand? Obviously, you said about being different. What other things you need to know?
All right, you have to know that it's not for everybody. That's for sure. You know, and like, you can want it and you can know a lot of people, but maybe putting on events is not for you. And it's not an easy game, and it's not a pretty game. Like, people see a lot of people and they don't know how many comps are given out. They don't know like the budget. So like, don't come into it thinking like, yo, I'm gonna get rich when I keep this party. Like, you might lose money. Most likely, if you want to build a brand, a 10 to 20 year party brand, you're gonna lose money on your first one, and probably your second one, and probably your third one. and then the party is going to be established, because you're not going to cheap it out, because you can't build a brand and people are leaving like, yo, they ran out of cups or they ran out of ice or it took me an hour to get a drink. Like, so you have to make sure that if you want people to come back, if you want to keep a one-off, like a one-off and try and make some money, you can do that. You won't get rich out of it. You can make up money, but you have to know that, like, yo, it's not a quick thing, and you have to have a plan. Like, it's just like any other business. You say, yo, this is the brand. This is how we want to grow it. This is the dates that we want to target. Like, you have to plan it out, just like anything else. Like, so you have to separate it and not think of it as a hustle, like, but more as like a long term. Like, I'm not in this for tomorrow. Like, these parties could exist in 20 years, which there are parties like that, like Frenchmen and other parties that are 10, 15 years old.
Yeah, man, for sure. Okay, so you obviously had the success with the Zimi parties. How did you get into the production side of things?
All right, I was hungry. Like, when I started Zimi, I wanted to do it all, which was a good and bad thing, because I tried it all. Like, as I said, we did tickets, we did event coverage. I went to school in Boston. When I was in Boston, and I couldn't get into the nightclubs because I was not 21 yet, I actually bought a camera and I became a photographer. And I went and I told, like, a message come people that, yo, I'll come take pictures for free. Went, they fucked with the pictures. I had no idea what I was doing, like, zero. I was just taking pictures. Yeah. Like, I always have a vision, but like settings and wise, I learned that over time, and the pictures got better. Started getting paid. I met all the promoters in Boston, like all of them. Went to like chain smoke. I took pictures at chain smokers after party. Like, just some like weird thing, because I'm not a photographer. And after I left college, I never continued it. But I did that. So like those little things, like I was always trying to do everything that could get me to build like the Zimi as just a big empire around entertainment. As I said, we wanted to do it. We actually, Silent Addy, he set me up with a thing with Ching Ching, put out a song, you get me? Obviously, you put it out, the little buzz, not like we didn't know what we were doing, like we didn't even shoot a video, you get me? Put it out, reading up, we're learning difference between publishing, masters, we're trying to learn the game, DistroKid, CD, baby, like I've account with everybody. I've tried to distribute to everybody. So it was just a lot of learning. As I said, started working with Steez. He was like, yo, me and him were close at the time. And he was like, yo, I want to do this. You want to manage me? And so, yeah. And started managing Steez. And that's where I learned a lot. Because it was like, I was producing songs for him. Like, we were getting beats and co-producing. We were distributing. We were marketing, shooting videos. So, like, I learned the whole works of, like, the music game, while still trying to, like, get my foot into the dancehall door, which was probably the hardest thing, for sure. Like,
so when you first started, were you working with Zimi Frank at that point?
No, Frank is later down. So that was all right. So I executive produce.
So are you making any of the beats like yourself, or are you producing the record? Okay.
I produced the record. So I've never been like, and I don't hide that. Like, I don't go around trying to pretend to be the beat maker. Because as much as important as the beat maker is, everything else that happens might be more, if not the same, but more important.
It's a different skill set.
Yeah. And I think that's actually the biggest skill set that's missing from Jamaica, which is the management, the marketing, the professionalism, everything outside of the music. We've mastered the music. We have the hit songs, but we're just not doing enough across the board. Meaning there's certain artists that are doing it, don't get me wrong. You get me? There's dancehall artists that are doing it. But as a collective group and an industry, there's no structure. There's no industry structure. There's no real rules and regulation. The business model of dancehall, to me, it's backwards, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in the whole producer. Every producer is basically a label.
Yeah, yeah.
And they get a one-track deal with an artist, a single or a juggling, and then they need to now go shoot videos, mix and master, sometimes pay artists, everything, and try and make money off of that without any kind of control over the artist's career and what they do with that song, which is very difficult because at the end of the day, if an artist isn't giving the energy to a song, that song is 99% not gonna bust. Because unless it's just a viral hit, they could ignore it and it could bust same way, but the chances are unlikely. So there's that whole dilemma. So that was all a learning experience. Like, you know, put out my first juggling. I'm not going to call a name, but I had to pay a couple artists on it. You see me? Never want to, never feel like I needed to or should have because of like, you know, where everything else was on. But we did it, and we did it because it was for the long run. Then again, I never made back those money on that song, but songs down the line are paying for those investments, which is not a do a one song and make a money. Just like the party, like music is not that unless you get lucky, which you can. You can get one song and retire, never work a day in your life, you know, which we hope for that song, but you know, you just have to do the work. So yeah, back to that, we dropped a couple stuff. We're working with Steez, you know, we went to Japan with Steez, first tour, then went to Belize. Like that was a big learning experience about tour life. Because like it was just me and him and Creep and JR, and then the tour people. It was a Chromatic Baker Steez tour. We did that. We dropped the song with Tommy Lee, like Andrew Blacks and myself who produced the song Propane for Steez and Tommy Lee. And then Steez did Sumfest with Tommy Lee, performed that track, which was good. So all of this was happening. The events were going on, you know, we're learning. Like we hadn't like, yeah, the events make okay money, but everything that we're doing is going back into trying to make this work, you know, for like a long-term goal. And then late last year, started to link with iWater and Intence. We dropped Done With The Badness in January for Intence. That was a collab with One Time Productions. And then quarantine hit. And at the time, like Frank is the engineer, and Frank builds a lot of the beats as well. So Frank is a part of that's why like when you see the music go out, it goes out as Zimi. Because we're really like a collective creative label in a sense. So we produce music, we produce events, we do merch, you know, so we just like that. So Frank and Intence develop a good synergy, good chemistry, and it kind of just became his go-to engineer. And naturally with that, you're gonna voice, because if you're around, you know, and rhythms are playing. So that's just kind of how it started, and we did Done With The Badness, that did well. Intence dropped a bunch of songs, and then shot the video for Yang. We dropped it, and yeah, it just went crazy.
The rest is history.
Yeah, basically, actually, like that's where the game changed. Like all the fighting, there's a lot of fighting dancehall, definitely, for sure. You see me? There's a lot of corruption. You know, everybody is trying to like eat a food. It's a big hustle. Like as I said, there's no.
So talk us through the typical production process of one of your songs. So let's say Yang, for instance, like what was the setup like? So was Zimi Frank making the beat for that, and then you were in the studio as well, or?
Yeah, art. Well, that song, funny enough, was art. So like the typical situation is Frank builds beats, and we also work with beat makers. You know, we also have a couple guys that we work with, and they build beats for us, and you know, work out the business with them, and I'll be produced by Zimi Ent. But Frank does all the recording and all the post-production, mixing and mastering. So the typical, like I'll get beats. If I'm at the studio, I can be depending on the artist and the relationship that the artist has with Frank, will depend on whether I'm at the studio all of the time. Because, as I said before, there's a lot that else has to be going on, meaning like working with the distributor to try to get the playlist in, someone else has to focus on, you know, organizing video shoots, which we've been shooting videos like every week. Like every week it's like a video. So it's
That's
like
a lot of drinking and smoking.
yeah, well, even that, you see, Corona helped with all of this. Like, it's messed up a lot, but it slowed down certain aspects of life that, you know, but, so the typical is we just get beats. Certain artists, like, depends on, as I said, depends on the relationship. A lot of the time I will lead out though, in terms of talking to artists. So I'll get a bunch of beats made for a specific type of artist and I'll send them like 4 or 5 beats. They want to work, either they'll just voice it and send me the files, or we'll link up at the studio and voice it. And then we'll just pick and choose and time. Every artist is different. Definitely with Intence and iWater, it's because it's so much music. It's a lot more time together and in the studio and just actively doing things like on a daily. Whereas with others, with a lot of it, some artists are in foreign. I use Instagram. That's a powerful tool. Anybody right now, for sure. You can be who you want to be on the app.
Yeah, it's true. So talking on Intence in particular, it seems like you guys have got so many songs lined up. How many songs have you got at the moment ready to release with Intence?
A lot. A lot. It's just enough work. Like, it's just, as I said, when the energy, that's a big part of dancehall. Well, music. If the producer, if you notice, most of the hits that have come out of dancehall came from times when a specific producer and artist were just consistently linking up and dropping songs. Like, you have the phases, you have the Not Nice phase. You know, you have Not Nice and Cartel, you have Not Nice and Alkaline, you have Andrew Blacks and Popcorn, like Andrew Blacks and Alkaline. Like, there's phases where it's like the artist was only voicing for them. You know, you had the DJ Frost and Alkaline. Even Alkaline with like Jordan them, you know, like there's phases like that go back into history, TJ Records and Cartel, like where, yeah, some of them are still dropping for the same people, but based on how it looks like, there's just times when those people locked in. It may have not been on purpose, but it's just like the energy at the time or how things worked out, where the studio was, who you're comfortable around. Like, when all of those dots align and both the artist and the producer are doing what they need to do on both sides to push the music and build, and it's not like, yo, me just give this man a song so he can allow me alone, but the genuineness and the work to be done and to make hits, then it's gonna happen.
I guess in that situation, the producer is just as important as the artist. Like, the artist is relying on the producer for the hits as much as the producer is for the artist.
Well, always, like, it's a balance. Like, on a football team, who is this? Like, Messi might be the known player, but like, if the defender ain't playing or they're not playing, like, you can't really put it on one man, because like, just as much as Messi needs to score, that guy needs to stop a goal or tackle somebody. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's just once that like the vision is there and like there's a genuineness. It's not like, oh, they're not thinking about how many songs they're voicing for you or whether they're getting money for the songs, or like, it's not about that. Like it's just like, let's make good music and comfortable. Like, when the artist is comfortable and they're willing to try new things, then they're more likely to come up with something that different and hit. And
I guess, you know, relationships like that don't come around very often, you know, and when you do, you know, find yourself with a chemistry like that, you really have to make the most of it and get what you can from it.
And I don't know, you probably know, there's like, dancehall is a funny place, like interesting place. Like, it's an interesting industry. So a lot of times the relationships don't last as long, or, you know, so as you said, you just have to do what you have to do and make it work, for sure. But it's glad for the Intence like chemistry and I water, definitely. They've given us back a different level of, they've matched our energy as producers, which it was very hard to find. Because as you said, like the man is just giving you one song. He doesn't really like, he's focused on his thing and the youths them around him. So it's not the best model for dancehall, but it just is what it is.
And do you feel like you can get that with like a more established artist, or do you feel like the fact that Intence is just kind of is still a relatively new artist, you know, do you think that's helped in that sort of that relationship and that chemistry?
I definitely think like the timing when we started working, because like he was known, he had a viral hit song, and then he dropped another banger with Sean Nizzle after. So he had two hit songs, and then he had some past songs that were also doing well, which like was like Prime Time and the other conscious song. So he was brewing, and it just, I guess Yang, just as important as it was for us, was important for him in terms of like the numbers are surpassing anything else that he has. Definitely in the time frame. Viral like Shade Room, like Omarion listening to it on Shade Room, 4 million views on the Instagram like video. Just like that, Stefflon Don listening to it, just those little things I think was also like, you know, put him on that more internationally known level. Because obviously Go Hard was a big song, but it was bigger in the Caribbean and Jamaica. And then I think Yang with the type of rhythm and the bounce and the simplicity of it, it kind of gave him that another level, and definitely gave us another level for sure.
So where would you rank Intence in the current generation of dancehall artists? Would you say he's at the top right now, like for right now?
My thing on ranking artists is like music. No, and I'll be straight up. Music is art. It's abstract, you know? So if you want to rank somebody, you can only look at numbers. That's all you can look at. And it's a very hard thing to judge, because if you have somebody that's dropping a song once a year or twice a year versus someone that's dropping a song weekly, especially when there's different things. Like Jamaica is heavily YouTube based and heavily majority. Like if we were doing those numbers on the other platforms, the money would be way more. Like we could be doing bigger videos. We could be promoting more. Like if songs are clocking 5 million views on Spotify in 4 months, they'd be like, yo, bro. And then a lot of people also don't know that YouTube doesn't pay for Jamaica. So they see these numbers and they get excited, but they're not paying because no ads show on my video every time I watch this thing. It's not stream, it's ad. So when the ranking thing is all, to me, music is perfect. Some people love certain type of music, some people don't. But if you just look at it on numbers, I would definitely say, yeah, between him, you have the likes of like, even Iwater is very hot. He hasn't gotten he's working on the songs, like, but when he gets that, like how Intence got his Yang, like, you know, but he's putting in the work to get there. You know, Yang Bones is doing really well. You have other people, well, I don't know, younger generation, do you consider Javelani younger? Because he's definitely held his own with everything, you know, put Wildside, definitely like professional with his stuff. You have Skilly Bang, there's a lot of youths out there right now, which is good. It's good because the music, I think dancehall, like there's too much music going out, but people are liking it. You know, people are liking it. So
if YouTube's not paying for the views, then what can you do with those views? You know, like I guess it's exposure is the most important thing.
You have to just learn. As I said, at the end of the day, you have to have a long-term plan, because not every blessing is going to be monetary. And you have to know how to take those blessings and then turn it into something that will make more income. So with entertainment, I don't like the word clout, but like, you know, having a following, um, you know, that whole, it's, you can monetize that through many different things. Um, I do think we just got introduced to Apple Music in Jamaica, so, you know, we're on a path. You know, the Apple Music streams definitely have gone up. Like, I've looked at statements and they've gone up more since Jamaicans have gotten access to it. A lot more, actually. Like, and people, I can see people now tweeting like, yo, why this song is not on Apple Music? Because for a while, Jamaicans would drop a video on YouTube, then submit it for Apple Music. And it would take like producers a lot of times would do that, especially if they weren't on top of how to drop a song and the whole pre-order and give the distributor 3 weeks to submit the playlist, and which most people don't do because they just want to drop the video on YouTube and then figure out the rest. And there's people now that say, why isn't this on Apple Music? Why isn't that on Apple Music? So that's a good sign. So if we get Spotify, we can be on track to, you know, making some of the real music money that. But the music, there is a diaspora. Yang's biggest listens on Spotify is in London.
That doesn't surprise me, no.
That's his biggest, that's where the song was played the most on Spotify in London.
Yeah.
Like 60%, like madness.
So taking Jamaica and the diaspora out of the equation, do you feel like artists like Intence, you know, who it's a very Jamaican sort of sound? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of the content is kind of, a lot of people that aren't from Jamaica or don't know it, you know, they might not necessarily understand it. Do you feel like there's possibility for artists like Intence to grow their market globally?
I think it all, yeah, there is. The thing though that I've kind of been watching and stuff is like, when there's a lot of Jamaicans in the world and there's a lot of people that like Jamaican music, and like dancehall. And I think there is definitely big enough for people to make money out of it. The dancehall culture, in terms of artists doing shows, making money off of streams. I think better collaboration efforts with the people over there would help. I wasn't around in dancehall when man like Beanie Man and Elephant Man and all of them were at the top. Like, I was listening to them as a kid living in Jamaica. I didn't, like, music was never, you know, doing music business was never on my mind. But according to what, you know, I've heard and stuff, when they were at the top, there was a lot of linkage between them and the top guys in the US, in terms of labels and, you know, BT and, you know, which we don't really get that. You don't really see that anymore. And I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if we didn't take advantage at the time of that or what, but I think getting back in the good side and the good eyes of the people who are really in charge, which is US labels for the most part, who really control everything, like getting back into the good eyes. So like Popcorn, for example, he's a very good example of doing that. Like, he is, you know, definitely I'd say the biggest international dancehall artist, meaning in terms of name wise right now. Like, you have Shaggy, you have Sean Paul, but in terms of on a global level, like 5 million monthly listeners on Spotify, that's not an easy like achievement. Yeah, 2 Drake songs, but that means everybody that listens to that Drake song now knows your name, which is a good thing, which will only push dancehall more, because then when Poppy does a song with another artist, they get that, or vice versa, or whoever is doing collabs out there, Spice, Sean Paul, Stylo G, like, you know, there's a lot. I think we need more of that, but that obviously takes time, and then it takes willing to like realize that this is a business. Like, yo, we're here to make money. Like, it's not about being cool, or it's about making the money. So let's just do what we need to do, operate in a fashion that they are willing to work with us, and, you know, do what, like, everybody has to play their part to make dancehall like a whole again. Like, somebody like, yo, we need to go work with those guys. Mm-hmm. Like, people come here, but we're not getting any of it. Like, they come here and they just use the energy and the culture, and cut, like voice up, go G jam this, but there's no like, you know, you have the artists that are doing it, you know, but I'm just talking on a whole scale, really level it up. I think that's a big part for sure.
So right now you've obviously got a big buzz in Jamaica with you know, artists like Intence, Quada, Javelani. Is it sometimes easy to get carried away with that hype? Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're the hottest thing right now, you know, like, I mean, how have you
That's not me.
not
I
you,
don't I don't even go outside right now. Especially with Corona. But here what? It's a little different to judge, I'm not gonna lie, because like there's not any party, so I don't have that feeling. And I've always wanted the feeling of being in a party and just seeing everybody sing a song that I produced. You get me? Like, and I've gotten a whiff of it through like certain social media videos, like, but most of those are in like foreign because there isn't any parties keeping. Like, we've had a stint of street dances where like antisocial, like that tear down the place. Yang tear down the place. Like Yang Bounce been tearing down the place, but I haven't been going out that much, so I haven't really, you know, gotten that. But here what? No, because here what? We look at what we're putting in monetary wise and time wise and what's coming back out, and we haven't made it yet, for sure. Like we'll have a foot in the door now. Like the work actually just is starting now. Like you're getting through to the artists that a year ago you were DMing and never getting through to, or you're reaching out to, and you know, it was like the energy wasn't there. Like now it's like, yo, there's a quick song.
are you finding that those same artists are now approaching you, or are you still having to approach them?
Both, a balance of both. The music thing is weird because like I've sent artists a rhythm and got it back like 4 months later with a song on it. Like just like totally thinking that song was like rhythm was written off for that artist. Luckily I hadn't even followed up on it and sent it to anybody else. So like I've had songs for like 2 years, so it's like it's a bit of both, and I don't really try and overthink those things because it's like you start to pre somebody and you have no idea why they didn't reply to the rhythm. Like you just don't know. So it's like, yo, just keep working. If the time comes, the time comes. It's like I feel like there's a lot of that in dancehall. Like man want pre man. Like we just want pre people for the sake of it. Like, yo, we're doing business, everybody is busy. If you just look at it like it's a business, and then you take out that emotion part and things will run smooth. You know, like I said, it's a friendly business, but you have to remember the day that it's a business. Like, you know, it's about that bread.
So obviously you've had the success with Intence, iWater, as we mentioned, Quada as well, Javelani. Have you got any other artists that you haven't yet worked with that we can be excited to hear a collab from?
Well, I have a lot of songs put down. Actually, I have a song with Jesse Royal.
Reggae or dancehall?
Yeah, reggae. Well, it's like it's a dope song. It's like just, you know, I feel like it's more on the reggae side though. More on the reggae side. I have a song with Chris Martin that's like a more international. Actually, I have a song with Ding Dong that's called Zimi River.
That's it.
And it's a river song, and funny story, like over Christmas he voiced it 2 days before River kept, right? And the day after River kept, he posted it on his Instagram, and I messaged him and I was like, bro, this is bad, but like, yo, let's save it, because like River just passed, like, you know, it's not gonna get what it's gonna get. So, and it was Christmas, you know, and you're going into the new year, the type of music is changing, people going into conscious vibe, like, you know, reevaluating their life, like party, you know, take a break from party. So I begged him to not drop it, and he didn't. And we'll have that, and we actually shot a video, and it was supposed to drop for this summer, but, you know, so that song will probably ended up dropping next year. But it's like, so that's like the music thing, like, so I have working with that. We have an EP that we're working on with Baker Steez. Definitely excited about that. We're going to drop that this year. So that's like 7 songs. We have a Shensia collab on it. And then, you know, he just did the thing with Popcorn on the fixed tape, which Drake posted it on his story, like in Barbados, listening to that, like that specific part, like 30 seconds on a fifth hour tape, and it just was Steezy's 30 seconds. So
Nice.
it was just, you know, I just think when you do the work, the time, the dots connect, and then you just have to be real with it and genuine.
So how do you decide when you're going to release music? Because as you said, you know, you've got a lot of songs with Intence ready to drop. Like, how strategic is the release of it, or is it just a case of when you can release it?
Well, all right. I said, artists are in different spaces at all times, career-wise. So as a producer, you have to be willing to know how to work different musics, different songs. Like, so for example, like the Jamil that we dropped. Jamil is dropping a good amount of music, but he's not dropping music as like often as say like a iWater or a Intence or even a Javelani, because he's in a different space in his career. You know, like he just dropped a project, so there's spaces. So with him, we were able to time and do the thing. With Intence, we voiced Antisocial on a Sunday. We shot the video on a Monday, and we dropped the song. That's I think on the Thursday. So like, and that was just with us. It was just the right time for that song. You know, it had statements in there, I don't say, that were current. You know, current to what was going on. So it's just, there's different things. You know, some stuff you time, some songs you put down, and you say, yo, this is for next year. Because like right now you just, and then I think we're in a special year with COVID for sure. Like people are trying to find out the right strategy. Do I just flood them, drop songs? Do I ease up? Like I think content right now is the #1 demand in the world, because people can't go anywhere, can't do anything for the most part. Obviously it's adjusting around the world at different times, but we are heavily on our phones right now. So I think it all depends, as I say, where you are at your career, what you're trying to achieve, like how much catalog you have. Intence is a new artist. And that's another thing we do in dancehall. We like to compare too soon, and we like to compare for no reason. Like, you don't need to compare the artist. Like, every artist is doing music. Whether you like it or you don't like it. You know, you can compare the numbers, but you can't compare artists. Like, everybody's lane is different. Like, everybody's lane. And then, like, you know, you're comparing someone that's been in the business for 2 years to somebody that's been in the business for 15 years. Like, bro, like, that's not even a realistic, like, it doesn't make sense to compare. So it's like, I think once you cut that out and we just, like, dancehall just works, like, obviously you're gonna have people who link with people and who don't link with people, but it doesn't have to mess up the business, you know? You don't forget DJs and everybody, like, not talking to each other and this one, and like, so let's do the work.
Have you found that you've had issues with other artists now because of your affiliation with, you know, the likes of Intence and iWater?
Not to my face, definitely not said anything, but you know, you can tell, like, energy never lies, you know. And obviously, anytime you're doing anything, you're gonna get talked about, whether it's good or bad. Like, you literally have to be doing nothing to not be talked about. And you'll still be talked about because they'll tell you you're doing nothing. So honestly, it's just, I don't even watch it. Like, I don't want to be, like, I'm not trying to be, like, I just want to work. I just want to work. So if the energy is right and you're willing to work and there's a mutual benefit to us working, then we'll work. Like, there doesn't have to be, like, at the end of the day, we're doing this because there's a mutual business relationship. We're not doing this because we grew up together. Like, I didn't grow up with any artist. And like, I think that's also, like, people take it to that level where, like, if you're not friends with somebody, you can't do work with them. It's like, bro, we're working. You get me? There's a reason we're working, because we see a benefit. You get me? It's not, you know, you have something I want, I have something. Like, you get me? It's not like, oh, yo, nah, par with me, you know. Like, come on, bro.
So
Zimi stuff.
so what's the next release that we can expect from the Zimi camp?
All right, so we shot that Intence video. That's the thing. So I don't really know. You know, we did the Intence and we have an Intence and iWater collab, which you saw that tease on Instagram. It's actually gone like viral already. It's on YouTube. Somebody put up the preview and it's gone like 30,000 in a day, and it's literally 30 seconds. So I don't know when we're gonna drop that based on some things. Like iWater just jumped on that rhythm yesterday. The Burberry rhythm.
Nice.
So that was with that was someone else that produced that. But like, so it all depends on what they have to drop for other people. But we definitely have that Javelani coming up. That's in like the final stages of like production, like shooting a video this week. And then I'm trying to decide on, I'm gonna do a Zimi EP. I just haven't decided whether I'm gonna do it this year or next year. Just kind of watching how things play out. Like we have most of the tracks for what we want on it. So just watching, like, because obviously we don't want to rush, like rather solidify, you know, the network around when we do drop this, it has the impact. So, you know, build our relationships with the DJs, the radio stations, the distributors, the playlist, which is, that's what I'm saying, like, you might not be making all the money. You can have a hot song and you're not making a lot of money on it, but you have to just use that hot song now to reach out to other artists, work with other people, get the radio station some dubs so they fuck with you and, you know, they want to work with you because, you know, you're helping out their DJ. Like, you have to just work. Like, it's not just you get a song and know, all right. What you do after you drop the song is everything. Dropping the song is the easiest part, you know, which I think I know a lot of people don't think about that. You can work a song, like a good example, like Claims Records, they work songs. Like, they worked brick on brick. Like, they worked it, you know. So working your records, like Chimney Records, they work their records. Like, you have producers that they know, like, when they drop, that's when the work starts. The road, the social media, the, you know. So there's definitely good people out there, good doing it, but think just that the unity, and it's not even everybody to be friends, you know, but just to have a alignment of how the business works. And if everybody's on that path, then collaborations, like dancehall needs more collaborations, like artists doing real collaborations, like in the studio, whether it's a collab EP. I think we need more projects too, like this single every week. It is not the, like, yeah, it's good, and obviously you have levels. Like, if you're a younger artist, you're more going to put out singles to build traction and build name, and, you know. But even the bigger artists, like, we can see, like, yeah, Popcorn is signed to OVO, so that has a big help. But that Fixtape did a good push and a good, you know, it did very well for dancehall. And I definitely think more of that. Protege just dropped his, like, album, like, more stuff like that that will get the Fader write-ups. They'll get the Rolling Stone write-ups. They'll get things that will spread the music and the people who are currently involved in the music. Because the bigger those people get, the bigger the industry gets, and then more space for the younger kids to come up and into an industry that's booming, rather than every generation is trying to, like, do the same thing.
100%, man. Well, Zimi Nick, man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on the show, and we look forward to seeing your next release, bro.
All right, respect, bro.